Well, there has been a change of guard at the Confederation of Indian Industry with Mr. T.V. Narendran taking over as the president of CII. Joining me now on this special conversation is the man himself, Mr. Narendran. Many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 and congratulations on taking over as president. I want to understand from you, what is the status check that you get from your members at CII on the state of play as far as business is concerned? From the 1st of June, we've seen various states move towards some degrees of unlock. Pretty much most restrictions have been removed across the country at this point in time. What has that meant for business specifically?
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen, for having me on the show. Yes, it's been a challenging few months, but I think over the last few weeks, we are starting to see things improve. We were concerned maybe 3-4 weeks back whether rural India has been impacted more than we realized because we had no visibility on what was happening in urban India. But I think some indicators tell us that it may not be as badly impacted as we feared. So we think that we could have a good recovery. Agriculture grew at 3.5% last year. We're expecting it to grow at a similar level this year. And that bodes well because we have a good monsoon ahead of us as well. So from a member's point of view, they are, I would say, cautiously optimistic with things opening up.
Cautiously optimistic, but you talked about rural India and you said that perhaps things are not as bad as what one feared or expected. What are the indicators that's giving you hope or confidence that things may not be as bad as what was anticipated?
One is, if you look at the numbers, rural unemployment, I think, has started dropping. It had gone up to, I think, 14%, if I'm not mistaken. So it's dropped down to about 10% or so. That is one. Secondly, if you look at tractor sales, etc., because these go primarily to rural markets, I think the sense I'm getting is things are not, they're more worried about the inflationary issues and cost issues than on the demand side or on sales issues. So still early to see anything happening yet in motorcycles, but these are some of the products which really go into rural markets. And if you see last year, July, the recovery was led by tractor sales and motorcycle sales.
Yes, of course, we are waiting to see what the sales picture will look like. But in terms of utilization, what is feedback from industry? What kind of utilization rates are we looking at? Because, while there continue to be some conditions attached to reopening, at least 50% across manufacturing sectors is what is allowed at this point in time. So what is the current utilization scenario?
So I think utilization is improving. Again, if I compare to last year where we had gone into a hard lockdown for 2-3 months, the disruption was far more significant to the supply chains. This time it's not been as acute as that. Secondly, what's also helping the situation is global markets have been strong. So export markets have been strong and that's reflected in the export numbers as well. So between the fact that the domestic market did not lock down as much as it did last year and export markets are stronger than it was last year, we are seeing utilizations go up. Of course, a lot of our members are connected to the auto supply chain. So the auto markets are starting to pick up. Of course, commercial vehicles may take a bit longer to come back on track, but certainly passenger car manufacturers have increased production levels for this month. So we are seeing utilizations level starting to pick up. I think we're waiting to see the June numbers, but certainly most companies have announced more production in June than they had in May.
Yes, that is certainly the case as far as the auto sector is concerned. But Mr. Narendran, on CII's recommendation saying that the government must provide more fiscal relief, must provide more fiscal support, you've pegged down a number of about 3 lakh crore rupees. You believe that that is the available space that the government could utilize. So far, at least the indications from the government are that, look, we need to wait and watch. We will front load capex, which was already planned as part of this year's budget. But in terms of any further relief or intervention, it still seems to be a wait and watch situation. How do you respond to that?
So there are multiple things here, right? Firstly, of course, what the government is saying, which is about front loading the capex and going ahead with the infrastructure plans that were announced in the budget. I think that's extremely important because that gives a fillip to multiple sectors. Construction activity, infrastructure spend, etc., is a great force multiplier. And more importantly, it creates economic activity in all parts of the country and not just in urban areas. So I think that's extremely important and that's a minimum that we need to do. But I think the point we are making as CII is that given that most families or most people have had to spend more on medical expenditure than they had planned to over the last 12 months, given that many have been impacted by either stagnant salaries or lower salaries or even job losses, particularly in high contact sectors, there is a need to get the sentiment, consumption sentiment, back into positive terrain. You know, the investment story from a government expenditure point of view is strong. Private sector investments will also start coming in some sectors, particularly sectors like steel. But if you look at consumption, what we are saying as CII is, could we look at maybe a GST cut of 2-3% for consumer goods for a limited period, maybe for 6 months, just to get the sentiment back? Could we look at some support for high contact sectors like travel and tourism? Could we look for some support for the MSME sector, who has been significantly impacted? They were impacted last year, but the EGLS scheme really helped them. This year also, they will need some support because they are also struggling with liquidity. So we are looking at more specific sectoral support, specific segments of society to be supported. Also looking at increasing Manrega, because that again, I think the outlay for this year is about 71,000 crores. Last year, I think the actual spend was about 110 or 111,000 crores. So can we get more into Manrega? Because that again flows into the economy, particularly the rural economy. So these are the specific suggestions that CII had, because two things are important. One is to get the vaccination on track, and two is to get the growth on track. And I think then we can get back to the speed at which we were operating before the pandemic.
I'll get to vaccinations in just a second, but since you talked about salaries and stagnant salaries as well as layoffs, what is the feedback on that? Are we seeing a significant reduction in wages? Is that what you're expecting as we move forward for the year ahead? What are you hearing in terms of job losses, companies being forced to lay off people, or at least at this point in time, not lay off people, but not hire either?
I think the worst period was last year in some sense, when most companies were struggling even to, deal with their liquidity issues. And that's probably when everyone pretty much took a salary freeze or a salary cut, etc. I think companies tried their best to make sure that there were no job losses. And at its worst, they tried to say that can we limit it to a salary freeze or a salary cut. So that's what most members did. But I think this year, as most of them started coming back before COVID-2 hit us, I think, there was far more optimism. And I think most companies gave the increases that they wanted to give. So I think the sentiment was positive before COVID-2 hit us. There are sectors, like I said, if you look at the hotels business, the restaurants business, which have been significantly impacted. Aviation has been significantly impacted. So these are sectors which have struggled. And I think if not job losses, certainly they're not hiring in a hurry because of the fact that they're already carrying workforce without enough work.
Yes, the contact-based sectors are the ones that have borne the brunt of the second wave, as well as still reeling from the impact of the first wave. But Mr. Narendran, you talked about steel and, in the context of private investment picking up. Is that likely to be one of the few sectors that could drive a pickup in private investment? And what about your own plans as far as Tata Steel is concerned?
No, certainly the steel sector, between all the major steel companies, have, I think, announced 50-60,000 crores of investments over the next 2-3 years in expanding capacity, including Tata Steel, right? So which is kind of to be expected, given that the demand is back and the prices are back, and prices are obviously much better than we've seen in a long time. So that kind of triggers the investment cycle. And I think India in the medium to long term is a good place to produce steel, and a place where the demand for steel will grow, particularly with the government's focus on infrastructure. So I look at base metals, I look at commodities where the cycle is positive, the demand is growing, as areas where which could lead the investment cycle. In addition to that, as we see automotive by next year picking up capacity utilization, then you could see probably some further expansions there. But even in auto, if you look at some of the other areas where you look at electrification, if you look at even two-wheelers, Ola, etc., setting up new plants for two-wheelers. So there would be investments. Where the investments are coming in private sectors, also in supply chains, because warehousing and things like that, the investments were picking up even before COVID-2 hit us, because e-commerce has really taken off and companies are investing in expanding their supply chains across the country.
You talked about demand being back as far as commodities are concerned. We're seeing that play out across the board, whether it's metals or fuel. But, specifically as far as metals are concerned, people had started to call steel the new gold. What's the outlook from here as far as prices are concerned, given the current fluctuation and volatility that we are seeing?
No, I think there are some structural changes in the industry. I will not, try to predict where steel prices will be, whether it'll be at this level for a long time or not. That I think it's too volatile a market to have a prediction like that. But I think structurally the industry is going through a change. The last 10 years was dominated by China exports. I think what's fundamentally happening is China is no longer keen to export steel because of their net zero ambition and their desire to reduce the exports of steel because it leaves a carbon footprint behind in China. So that's one thing. Second thing is, if you look at the carbon costs in Europe and other countries which have a carbon cost or a carbon tariff, you're seeing the cost curve shifting with the carbon cost being embedded in the cost of steel. So I think cost curves are shifting across the world. Trade flows are changing across the world as far as steel is concerned. And I think any metal which was exported by China in big volumes will face this. So I think this is a structural change which is happening to support, or rather to, in some sense, this is the supply side change which is happening. But on the demand side, because most economies have invested or have announced investments in infrastructure, you're seeing the demand also being pulled up. So whether it's the US and its $2 trillion, $3 trillion package, or if you look at Europe and their plans, or even if you look at China's plans on infrastructure, the demand side is strong and the supply side is getting restructured. And that's why you have a cycle where the prices will be higher than what we've seen for most of the last 10 years.
Mr. Narendran, since you talked about structural changes in the supply side, let me ask you this in the domestic context, where we are now seeing the government try and provide incentives to industry here by way of the PLI schemes. We're still awaiting clarity on RoDTEP. We've been waiting now for the last 4 months on that, or actually 5 months on that. So how does that impact the scenario in the near term, in the short term, given the kind of export growth that you are seeing?
So I think the PLI scheme is well intended, and I think it's triggered a lot of interest, and I think we encourage that, we support that. RoDTEP is also, I think, important. I think Indian exporters need to be supported. But fundamentally, I think the positive story is FDI in India has been strong. I mean, even despite the challenges of last year, it has been at least 10 to 12% higher than the year before. A lot of that is also coming into manufacturing. I think what we know as CII is that, I think there was a Goldman Sachs report which said that after China and Vietnam, people are looking at India as it's not China plus one, it's like China plus Vietnam plus one. So you become a sort of destination or a potential investment destination for anyone looking to de-risk their supply chains. So I think we are positive about it. I know Make in India has been a story which we've been hearing for a long time, but I think there is some traction picking up. And if domestic demand picks up, I think India is a good place to invest, not only to sell in India, but to export out of India. So most countries offer export as a market, but I think India offers domestic and exports as a market, and that should make it a bit more attractive.
I want to go to the vaccine issue that you raised, because that is going to be critical, as part of this larger recovery story that we speak of. Now, CII has put down a number saying that we need to do at least 70 lakh doses a day. We're currently averaging about 30 lakh doses. At least that's the picture as far as this particular week is concerned. Is that a cause for concern for you, for industry at large, given the fact that the pace of vaccination is still much lower than the asking rate?
Absolutely. It is a concern. And I think we are highlighting this because we believe it's very, very critical to ensure that we go back on the growth path. It's very critical to ensure that we don't have a COVID phase 3, which was as bad as COVID phase 2, right? So fundamentally, yes, we are at 3 million or 30 lakh vaccines a day. We were at 1.5 million maybe last month. We were again 3 million before that. I think during COVID-2, things dropped, right? But now it's back to 3 million. And I think what we are hearing from the vaccine producers is that the production will keep going up month on month. So we are expecting that the ramp up will continue. When we say 7 million vaccines a day, we are saying on an average it should be 7 million between now and December, which means towards the end of this period, it should be more than 7 million so that we have an average of 7 million. Now, what I think we are also concerned with is, while just now we have a situation where there are fewer vaccines and there are people willing to be vaccinated, we believe that in the next couple of months this will change, because there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy in rural India. There is even vaccine paranoia in rural India. So we need to work together, the government and industry, to make sure that as and when vaccines are available, there are enough people willing to be vaccinated. Because in urban India, it's not so much of an issue. But unless you vaccinate most people in India, whether they're in urban India or rural India, the risk of the pandemic is still there. So I think it's extremely important for us to run communication programs, work with local communities, because what we hear from local communities is that they will believe somebody from their community or somebody from their ecosystem, rather than somebody sitting somewhere else telling them that it's good to be vaccinated. Right? So we really need to engage at the local level, in the villages, in the communities, convince them that vaccination is important for them and the community, and then make sure that we get more people vaccinated. The industry needs to play a role to make sure that they use the influence that they have in the ecosystem around their operating units and drive vaccination. So a lot needs to be done over the next few months if we have to be safe.
What is this idea of this vaccine czar that CII is floating? You know, somebody who's going to be able to coordinate with all, central government, state government agencies, as well as the private sector. I mean, who is the vaccine czar supposed to be?
Well, that's for the government to decide, but we are not the only ones thinking of it. The UK has a vaccine czar in some sense of the term. So I think the point we're making is this next 6 months is extremely critical, right? And it's a complex journey. It's not going to be easy because you have multiple stakeholders involved. You have and there will be a shifting bottleneck. Just now the bottleneck is the supply. Tomorrow it will be vaccination. You know, the bottleneck will shift from urban India to rural India. You need the paramedics available at different parts of the country. It's much easier to do vaccination in urban India than it will be in rural communities. So there needs to be a lot of coordination between the center and the states. And if you have a lot of vaccines available, you also need to make sure that they're used before they expire. So there are multiple challenges to deal with. Instead of dealing with multiple people across multiple governments, I think if there can be single point coordination, who industry can deal with, industry associations can deal with. There's also a lot of coordination to be done with the hospitals, government hospitals, private hospitals. So there's a lot to do. And that's why we're saying that for something as important as this, for the next 6 months, 1 year, have somebody let the ball keep rolling. I mean, you had that when you implemented Aadhaar, right? So why not have somebody like that? When I say that, I'm saying more from a position point of view, to take ownership and drive it across all these multiple stakeholders.
So Nandan Nilekani, kind of person and perhaps a position like that to drive the vaccination program forward. But before I let you go, Mr. Narendran, vaccines, of course, will be crucial. COVID-appropriate behavior, how we deal with a possible third wave. I mean, all of this is still up in the air at this point in time. What would your chief concerns be? And, what are the priorities that you intend to focus on as president?
So there are, if you look at the theme that we've crafted for the year, we are talking of competitiveness, growth, sustainability, and technology, of which competitiveness and growth are more here and now kind of issues that we need to work on. We work on it every year. It's nothing new, but what we do is different every year, right? So this year, if you look at growth, the first and immediate step is to take care of vaccination, because otherwise growth is just a conversation to be had and not something that will happen, right? If I look at sustainability and technology, that's a little bit more planning for the next few decades, because climate change is a big issue, and India will be expected to come with a net zero pledge sooner than later, because most major countries in the world have said that, right? And if India makes a pledge and fixes a year, there needs to be a well thought of policy roadmap to plan for this transition, because this transition is going to be complex, it's going to be expensive, it has socioeconomic consequences. So CII feels that it is an important role for CII to play, not only to help the government, help in the policy evolution for this transition, also help the members deal with this transition and this evolution. And technology, to me, is going to be the biggest differentiator. In fact, it's becoming even more important than trade as we speak. Right? Geopolitical issues are now being impacted more by technology than by trade. If you look at what's happening between US and China, it started with trade, but now it's all about technology. Right? So to me, we believe that, again, as a nation, as industry, and as industry body, sustainability and technology are two important subjects that we need to work with the government and with our members so that we can shape the future as much as we deal with the challenges of competitiveness and growth that we need to deal with every year.
Well, always a pleasure, Mr. Narendran. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. We wish you the very best of luck as you start your tenure as president of CII.
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen.
With that, it is time for us to take a break here, but the news will continue on CNBC TV 18. Stay tuned.